Welcome back to Psychedelic Therapy Frontiers, the podcast devoted to exploring the frontiers of psychedelic medicine and what it takes to cultivate a healthy mind, body, and spirit. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Steve Thayer. Today, my co-host, Dr. Reed Robison, and I are joined by Jeremiah Robison to talk about work-life balance. Jeremiah is the founder and CEO of Shroom Beach, a psychedelic-inspired clothing company that donates 10% of its profits to fund psychedelic medicine research. And as you may have surmised from his last name, Jer is also Reed's younger brother. In this episode, we discuss Jer's journey as an entrepreneur and business leader and explore how his experiences with psychedelics have influenced this journey. We talk about the struggles to create balance between work and other life areas. I really enjoyed having Jer on the show. He's a sincere, thoughtful, compassionate guy, and I'm glad he's my friend. All right, skip ahead if you don't want to listen to me ask you to rate and share the podcast. And to those of you who didn't skip ahead, blessings be upon you. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen. Like the video on YouTube, share it with a friend. It helps us out a lot. Without further delay, enjoy this episode with Jeremiah Robison. Welcome back to Psychedelic Therapy Frontiers. We are here with
Howdy.
Dr. Reed Robison. How you doing, Reed?
Great, thanks.
Awesome. I'm Steve Thayer. And a special guest today, Jeremiah Robison. If you recognize the last name, it's because he's Reed's brother.
Yep. Hello, brother.
So today we thought we'd talk, with Jer here, we would talk a little bit about work-life balance and entrepreneurship, what it's like to be a business owner in today's day and age. Since the name of our podcast is Psychedelic Therapy Frontiers, and between the three of us, we have some experience on that topic of psychedelics. We might talk a little bit about how psychedelic experiences has helped informed entrepreneurial journeys. Does that sound okay, gentlemen?
I like it.
Sounds good.
Well, Jerry, why don't you introduce yourself and give the audience some context?
Okay, my name's Jeremiah Robison. You want me to look at the camera? Does it matter for this?
Doesn't matter. Just
anywhere we can converse
look
with
at
each other.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like Reed said, I'm his little brother. And I don't know how much you want me to go into detail, but I'll just kind of start with my entrepreneurial journey. I started my first business around 2009, kind of after that economic crisis. It was almost out of necessity. I used to sell houses, but I was struggling to do that. So it just led me to take that leap of faith in the entrepreneurial world. And fortunately, it did work out for me. I had a lot of success. And yeah, also struggles with work-life balance. This is a great topic. Experienced some heavy burnout, a lot of anxiety and stress related to work and the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship. And I feel like over the past 2 or 3 years now, I've kind of reached somewhat of a breakthrough in the work-life balance, but almost to the opposite extreme, kind of like, you know, the pendulum swung a little too far into the inner space.
Super zen.
And, you know, there has been some decline in some of my businesses, but, you know, to me, it's been priceless, you know, this experience going through my journey with plant medicine and meditation. So yeah, let's dive into it. Is that enough of an intro?
Do you want to add a little color of what your first business venture was that took off? I think it's a fun story.
Yeah. So, you're talking about Beloved Shirts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My first clothing business, I've been in clothing for almost 10 years now. And it started with Beloved Shirts, and, really it wasn't even a business. It was more of an experimental kind of joke in the beginning. We were doing some really crazy t-shirts, sweatshirts with, more of like a 3D all over print style to it. And yeah, it gained some traction. I remember, you know, first few months in, we were featured on BuzzFeed for like, the title was 30 sweatshirts you can actually buy, because people didn't believe they could buy these. They were that shocking. So, I mean, it worked out really well for us. And then Shark Tank picked us up. I applied at the U to be on Shark Tank, and they invited me on to season 7, I believe. And yeah, we had a collaboration with Katy Perry, which was super fun.
Wow.
And yeah, lots of amazing experiences with that business. And it's not doing as well as it used to. You know, there's been a lot of knockoffs, and it's more of it's a tough space to be in. Beloved Shirts, it's not so much, it is a brand, but it's more in the commodity space, like a lot of hype over ugly sweaters and certain things that people can copy pretty easily. So,
Oh yeah, I get ads on Instagram all the time
Yeah.
for similar products.
So yeah, that was the first successful clothing business I've had, and I've since pivoted into more of a passion for me with clothing. It has always been with fit and fabric, and I have an activewear brand called Flex Living now that does really well. And then a third clothing store is called Shroom Beach, and that's the one you guys are probably more familiar with, because it is in this space. It's psychedelic themed apparel, and a lot of my passions are put into the clothing, and I love it. It's so fun.
So if you've seen those cloaks or pants or shirts that light up with a pattern of mushrooms or something like that under a flash, that's very likely a Shroom Beach piece of clothing.
Yeah, in fact, I wrapped my car in a psychedelic mushroom print that kind of turns rainbow colored when the light hits it. So it was just, a business expense, but it's fun. Yeah.
Did you get some fun reactions?
Oh yeah, a lot of positive reactions. I don't notice them as much now because I've been driving it so much, but my kids do. Every time they ride with me, they get a kick out of it. The people pointing and yeah.
I remember
and the neighbors thinking I'm getting into trouble or something, up to something.
Judgment.
Yeah, some judgment. But.
Yeah. I remember we were walking through Harmon's once. We were coming back from somewhere, stopping for a quick grocery run. You had your car, I had mine. I remember someone kind of speeding to catch up with you and say, "Hey, is that your car?" They just wanted to talk to you about that mushroom print.
Yeah, some people that literally have no idea what psychedelic mushrooms are. They're just fascinated by it. They love the print and the butterflies. It's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland feel to it.
Right. So yeah, it's a brand around psychedelics, right? So is this a brand informed by how psychedelics have shaped you, have changed you?
Yeah, some of the art, so some of them, the designs on there are actually my own doodles that we put onto the shirts. Not all of them, but yeah, a lot of them come to me in psychedelic journeys, or maybe I've been listening to some Alan Watts lectures and there's a quote that jumped out at me. I'll want to draw something surrounding that idea. But for the most part, it's honestly just a brand that's celebrating the overall psychedelic renaissance that's going on. Yeah. And we're setting aside 10% of our profits to donate to Psychedelic Institute, a nonprofit in this space. So yeah, we're just excited to be a part of it and to celebrate, and other people get excited and even have fun with what's going on right now,
So, you started by kind of giving us a brief overview of your entrepreneurial journey, right? And this is something that I've noticed in other podcasts I've listened to, or other entrepreneurs or business owners that I follow online, that there's this transition, or this, we'll just keep calling it a journey, where they start out when they're younger and they're hustling, right? To be an entrepreneur is really, really hard. You mentioned the roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster of highs and lows. And you got to be really resilient to disappointment, to failure, in order to make it as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So there's this hustle culture, this drive. I need to, grab the bull by the horns. I need to, 20-hour or 120-hour work weeks. I really need to put it in. I need to have goals. I need to make the money. And so you've got this sort of drive culture, goal-setting culture. And then you see a lot of these guys and gals get into their 30s, their late 20s, and they're kind of burned out, even if they're financially successful, right? By all metrics, they've made it. And then they find themselves unfulfilled. They've made it, even if their businesses are, value-centric, and there's a lot of meaning attached to their product or whatever it is. They can still feel kind of empty when they have, quote unquote, made it. So I see a lot of these folks get into psychedelics, these Austin and Silicon Valley folks, and they discover meaning through their work in psychedelics, and it shifts, but not all of them sort of give up the entrepreneurial life. You mentioned that maybe your businesses aren't as, would you say, successful? I don't know what word you would use since you've made this transition, but I'm just interested in that story arc.
No, it's interesting. I said that, but when I look at the numbers, they have actually improved.
Really?
So, yeah, I guess it's funny. This goes back to kind of some shadows in me that not good enough if I'm not doing enough, like feeling like I always should be doing something. The biggest game changer for me with this transition into more mindfulness and stepping away from the hustle culture was just being able to delegate, taking that leap of faith of delegating a lot of what I used to do and do all myself.
It's not all up to you anymore.
Yeah, it's a game changer. You kind of surrender a little bit. I was even seeing on my Instagram feed, there's a really cool graphic of two spectrums. There was discipline and surrender, and in the middle is what they call the flow state, the middle way. And that's what I'm trying to find right now, because like I said, I think I swung a little bit too deep into the surrender space. I even tattooed a lily on my arm, thinking of how Jesus, quoted, "Consider the lilies, they don't take thought for the morrow." It literally got to that point where I wasn't thinking anything of the future. And to a degree, that can be a problem for an entrepreneur.
Sure.
I like to, a buddy of mine, we were talking about planning our next year, sort of like goals, thinking of moving into the next year. And I like his approach. He mentioned he likes to think of his goal setting or his next year more as a theme as opposed to a goal. He's kind of seeing the overall theme of where he wants to be next year, but not obsessing over so much planning and so much linear thinking of all these check boxes you have to go through. So
I like that. It's almost more of a manifestation or an energetic intention than setting up this specific bar that you need to hit or you fail.
Yeah.
Right? Because that can be a trap, but there's also something to be said about aiming your energy towards this place, or like setting your sights in a certain direction, like, feeling into your purpose and taking action.
Yeah, because it's going to be hard for me to articulate this. It's something I've thought a lot about, but I haven't come up with a really clear way to articulate it. I don't know if they are inherently incompatible. And so by they, what I mean is this goal-oriented hustle type approach to life, which, if you hire a life coach, they're probably going to help you get clear on your goals, get clear on your why. Reed and I did an episode on finding your purpose. We talked about some of these concepts and really getting them clear. And then all of the activities that you can muster need to be directed in that direction, because otherwise you're just sort of going wherever the river takes you. Right? So there's that concept. And then the other one that I'm wondering if it's compatible with is this sort of Buddhist, psychedelically informed, surrender to the present moment, relinquish your attachment to outcomes mindset that we often talk about is probably more conducive to mental health than the other one. Certainly we can argue that point, but is there a bridge between the two? Because it seems to me that the former maybe is better for the bottom line in your business, but maybe not.
The former meaning goal-oriented
hustle. Yeah. Really concrete about your objectives.
Yeah, I mean, striving doesn't always result in better performance or outcome, right?
Yeah.
Grasping too hard makes it harder to attain the thing, right? Like we've talked about. So I think when Jer mentioned the middle way, I think that is pointing at that balanced place of where, the effort and ease meet. Like there's this idea in yoga of that a given yoga pose has two components and they need to be balanced, effort and ease. And it's, you're not trying too hard where you're wasting all your energy, but you're not like blowing over with the slightest bit of wind and face planting.
Right. So we recorded an episode a couple weeks ago about the middle way. So now I like this, Reed. I'm curious about the middle way applied to entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah. So I keep thinking of Ram Dass, how he teaches quite a bit about the concept of being in the world but not of the world, being form and formless, integrating the human experience back into his life after getting so high for so long and being what he considered maybe a holy man, to come back into his human. And I feel like that's starting to happen more as the pendulum swung far to that side. I'm learning more how to come back into being a businessman, but with hitting differently, like your
Yeah.
awareness is a little bit further behind that now, and you're watching it kind of happen, as opposed to being so sticky in it and consumed by the hustle culture and the anxieties of needing to keep up and needing to do. So I think, that's the art. It more has to do with awareness, I feel. And meditation is the perfect teacher for this. I feel like it's always like a mini reality of the bigger picture of your normal life, where your thoughts might be extremely loud and coming up quite a bit in a meditation, but that doesn't mean the meditation's a failure. And in life you might be busy, you might have these seasons that are hard, but overall, if you can have that space of awareness, just like you would in a meditation, to not grab at the thoughts, but just to watch them go all the way through like a cloud. And even your stressful daily life tasks, you're doing it, but your awareness is not stuck in it, So.
As above, so below. The meditation becomes a microcosm of the macrocosm, where you
Totally
practice.
is. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. So there's an awareness that you can bring to your goals that helps you be less tightly wound and tightly bound.
A loving awareness. Yeah.
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 So you can make deliberate, thoughtful, let's say business decisions that are aligned with your values, aligned with your goals, aligned with your vision, and it's less frantically attached to outcome and more thoughtfully integrated to process. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So for me, when I try to boil it down for myself to like tease out a pattern or to try and help someone like work on it, it comes down to three things for me anyway: is attention, intention, action, inspired action. So attention is one of the things we can train in meditation, right? If your monkey mind is everywhere, how do you get through the householder things or the chop, carry wood?
Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah. Chop wood, carry water kind of things. If you don't have any reign over your intention, but you don't want to struggle with that too much. And then intention, like that goal setting, it's more like planting a seed, like putting a theme out there or manifesting this vision you have, and then taking inspired action without too much of the hustle.
It makes me think of sort of criticisms of The Secret, because you use the word manifesting, and it often calls to mind that book, The Secret, that concept, The Secret, that took Silicon Valley or Hollywood or whatever by storm. And
it bugged me.
Yeah, didn't it? Like the idea that you could just sit around and hope for the $1 million or the partner or the Ferrari, and it would, and the universe would distill it upon you like manna from heaven. It's so, thinking about what you want and your goal, your trajectory is only the first step. It's not the last one.
Yeah, because there is something very real about where your attention goes, energy flows, right? Like if you spend your time criticizing yourself, that's counterproductive. Rather, if you spend your time encouraging like positive things in your life, or like even whether it's a mantra or a be here now or something like that, then it brings more of that into your life. But it's not without that inspired action component. Yeah,
The Secret, there's a lot of truth behind that. I know it's a little cheesy, that film you're talking about, but to be honest, that was almost like my gateway into the path of meditation and psychedelics. I was kind of at a desperate place with business, going through one of my failures or a stressful time where I was like, anything, I just need miracles. So I started to, do these guided meditations about manifesting. And, a lot of it was with these money intentions behind it, which now it doesn't feel right, like going into that space. But I'm grateful that it kind of got me into this, because that gradually transitioned to, less of these manifestation, goal-oriented sessions in the morning about money to, hey, let's practice meditation. I was starting to see other things pop up on my Insight Timer app. And sure enough, over time, that's what led me into psychedelics, my first psilocybin experience. So yeah, it's a lot different now, but practicing those same concepts from The Secret, but with more pure intentions is powerful, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I look at how, I entered the ayahuasca world. It was looking for more of a treatment tool and getting more than I bargained for with my own spirituality, or like when I entered a yoga studio for the first time looking for a workout or looking to calm the nervous system, and I got much more than I bargained for, or how that happens time and time again. You might be moving into a meditation practice for, you just want to work on your chronic pain or your anxiety and find a little bit of awakening. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah. But there was moving, right? You went to the yoga studio. You went to ayahuasca. Yeah. You didn't just sit there and expect the universe to deliver it on your front door. Yeah. So there's the thoughtful manifesting where you're pointing yourself in that direction, a direction, and hopefully maybe it's a wide direction. Your aperture is wide, and then you're saying yes to what the universe presents to you. But because you have in mind what you want and what you're going for, you also say no to things that are not consistent with your vision or not consistent with what you're trying to manifest.
Mm-hmm. And it does seem to be, there seems to be a bit of a pattern or hero's journey with this like awakening process, and then going inward to do some deep work, and then returning to like the form, or returning to the world and doing that work with a new perspective.
Yeah, it's like almost after a very intense mystical experience, you're tempted to just get up and leave and be a monk or renunciate life. Yeah. But, there's a lot of beauty in going back into the human form, into your in the world role in whatever this whole play of existence is, and having that different awareness, taking that experience with you back into the world, and I think that's the work-life balance, when you can enter that from a new awareness.
So, Jerry, what does that look like for you? How has your work-life balance shifted as you've discovered plant medicine, had your experiences, and brought more of this awareness you're describing to your business?
Yeah, so a lot of what changed for me was surrendering a lot of the sticky attachments to outcomes that I used to carry. It was a very heavy burden of trying to keep up and have a big house and all of this. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to desire that, but it didn't weigh on me as much after these psychedelic experiences. And, also having a great support system, my wife, and understanding that we're ride or die no matter what. Like, it's more of a comfortable, peaceful place to operate in, and awareness to operate in, even in the chaos of business. It's game changer. So yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, these psychedelic experiences are priceless for me with where I'm at.
How has it impacted? You mentioned your wife and how pivotal it was, and knowing you, of course, and her, I've been really inspired by your journey together, and I'm wondering, how plant medicines have impacted you two as a couple.
Like in our relationship and marriage? Yeah, wow. Like, that's probably even more impactful of an area of life than my work life with psychedelics. It's been amazing. The biggest thing I think it's done for us is to give us both a lot more inner space in each other, and that the result of that is just being able to communicate so much better. Our walls have come down that we used to carry, and communication is just so much more at ease, and we flow when we have problems. And it's not like we try and fix everything so quick. Like, there might be a wall or two after an argument, but they come down pretty easily now because of this new awareness.
I wonder, how we talk about in psychedelics that the fear of death prevents us from living. Like, say you're facing the end of your human existence here with like a serious life-threatening illness. For many people, it's hard to relax into presence in that final chapter. And I wonder if it plays in something you said about of trusting each other, that you're there for each other, and that you don't have to fix everything right away. You don't have to have all the answers, has let you relax into your journey together even more in a more
it's
easeful
totally
way.
Like ebbs and flows. I don't know if you've read the lyrics or listened to the lyrics of Grow As We Go. That
Yeah,
can't remember who sang that, but
the guy from Dear Evan Hansen.
So it's almost like we take turns almost subconsciously, where if I'm having a difficult week or month, she's there holding space for me, and then vice versa. You know, we rarely ever fall apart at the same time. It's funny how that's working out, but it's we grow as we go, like the song says.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely like a growing process, and psychedelics have been a game changer for our marriage, hands down.
So, Jerry, would it be accurate to say that part of the way that psychedelics have been a game changer is they've brought an awareness not only to the relationship itself, but an awareness to the way you are in the relationship and the way she is in the relationship. It's a humility about the way you can get selfish, maybe. It's a humility about an acceptance of your own needs in a relationship. And then because you're calmer about your attachments, you're not clinging to them so tightly, it's easier for you to give space when she needs it. It's easier for you to make sacrifices, if you even want to call them that, to give her the benefit of the doubt. So is it accurate to say psychedelics helped you with those changes?
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest part for me is it's shed a lot of light on areas that we've kind of hidden in ourselves for so many years. And this is both personally and in a relationship dynamic, but it really brings things to the surface, like shadow stuff that we didn't even realize was there. And the psychedelics have given us this light and awareness to talk about this. It just, the word that keeps coming to my mind is communication. It just feels like it's a gateway into amazing communication for us.
Your comment about shadow and light makes me think of a Carl Jung quote that we've quoted on the podcast a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah, I love
him.
Him.
If you don't make the unconscious conscious, it'll dictate your life, and you will call it fate.
Wow.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing when he talked about shadow. You're bringing that stuff that has such a huge influence on our everyday life, our relationships especially. You're bringing it into the light, so you can examine it with this loving awareness container, and that's a recipe for amazing, like, enlightened progress together.
Definitely.
Yeah, it certainly helps you create, we've been talking about work-life balance, but what falls under this category of life, right? It's certainly your relationships with your partner, with your children if you have them, with your friends, recreational activities, the things that aren't work. But for you, it sounds like you've created a business that also overlaps a bit, right? It's a business that's it's a clothing business, but it's a clothing business with purpose.
Yeah, just it allows me to kind of overlap a little bit with the other areas of spiritual work and what I'm doing in my life with work, and I love that. Also the other business I mentioned, Flex Living, crosses well with fitness, and that's another side that we need to balance in our lives. Our body is super important. And we tend to forget about our body when we get too busy with work too. So
for sure,
it's not just the relationships and the spirituality, but also physical.
I think those are some of the big pillars that are crumbling when that balance is out of whack. Is we mentioned relationships, we mentioned spirituality, we mentioned taking care of yourself, your health. So who are some of your teachers? You mentioned Alan Watts, Ram Dass. I'm wondering, and you also mentioned the coaches you had that were maybe money focused back in the day, but where have you landed on who inspires you, who you turn to now, like as far as gurus?
Definitely evil Ram Dass. No, the real Ram Dass he's my teacher. Like, he resonates with me so much. It's been a huge role in my spiritual path, and a lot of what's happened with psychedelics has shaken up my belief system. And I was very religious growing up, and naturally with this path that I've been on, the theme of it has been very open-minded, and it's led me into I guess a religion of no religions is where I'm at. And Ram Dass is my favorite teacher. Alan Watts also, although I like to listen to Alan Watts when I'm feeling more in my shadows. For some reason, he speaks really well to that part of me.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm maybe having a microdose of LSD at the moment, or for some reason when I'm in that medicine, Alan Watts speaks to me. Yeah.
He's a trip.
He's a trip.
So,
he is an LSD trip. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think it is about Ram Dass? Like, what does he embody, or did he embody, that resonates with you?
I just feel like he's an honest mirror for everyone. Like, a lot of teachers, sometimes you'll almost see it as a separation, like, oh, there's somewhere I should be like that person. They have all the keys, the tools. I'm going to learn. Ram Dass, there's something about him. Maybe he comes down to our level and acts as a mirror for my inner world. And it's hard to explain, but do you feel that way about Ram Dass too?
I do. I think he's resonated with both of us in a striking way. And I mean, I've been listening to Alan Watts for even many more years than Ram Dass, but there's something about his journey, and I think you're onto something for me as well, with how relatable, how authentic, how real, how human he is. He does tend to he had this ability to stay in the world, not of the world, like you mentioned, or formless and form at the same time. And embody this loving awareness, right?
Yeah, both him and Alan Watts, I think, are huge instruments in bringing Eastern philosophy and spirituality to the West and helping us understand it and digest it. And that's where a lot of my belief system has wandered, is more to the Eastern views as opposed to what I grew up with. I'm not saying it'll always remain there, but that's where I'm at right now.
A lot of people would say that those Eastern views are maybe less compatible with Western capitalistic entrepreneurial attitudes, So it as I think about your story, Jer, it's these Eastern views, spiritual views, maybe are helping you strike that work-life balance now because they've compensated or balanced out your upbringing as a red-blooded American who,
I mean, it could be doing a disservice to the Western hustle-minded old Jer from years ago, but no, I think it's a bigger picture now. It's a bigger vision that, like I feel like you can be doing both, like in the world and not of the world. And to me, like the full Buddhist renunciate path, obviously that's not going to mesh with what I'm doing right now with Shroom Beach and trying to grow businesses. But the way that Ram Dass and Alan Watts brought those concepts to us Westerners that are so used to thinking linearly of, I have to make it to this, to make it to that, to achieve this, to eventually get, it's just an endless line. Whereas the Eastern, to me, it's a little bit more of a circle. It's more cyclical and like the seasons. And I feel like business can be taken in that way too, as opposed like, there's something said to be thinking of your exit plan or the end game, but I don't know. I don't like to think about that lately. It's a different space. And like I said, I could be not the one to seek advice as an entrepreneur right now, but this podcast is about the balance, and I'm here to shed some light on the other side of where I'm headed.
And that that attitude is, I think, an important one to point out as well, is that I may not have all the answers, but I think we're asking you because you have had this journey through entrepreneurship with multiple successes and by many definitions, even kind of Western success. You have more than one like well-producing business that lines up in many ways with your purpose and interests, and so I think that's really neat to surround it with a disclaimer that I may have no idea what I'm talking about, but these are important concepts and something I think the Western world struggles with big time. That hustle. I remember rewind my journey 5-10 years when I was way more often found burning the midnight oil, chasing kind of work deadlines and projects, but who really ends up on their deathbed or like around the time of their funeral saying like, I wish that I had worked more.
Or that I worried more.
Yeah.
Why didn't I worry more?
More time at the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no trailers attached to hearses. You can't take it with you.
But yet I'm glad I have put, a lot of energy into working on things that I believe in and helping bring them to fruition. That's given me a lot of meaning too, and also given me a lot of fuel as a parent and in so many other ways in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're attached to something that matters to you, then I think of, I can't remember if we've talked about this in the podcast, but the idea of clean burning fuel and dirty burning fuel. Maybe your dirty fuel is your insecurities. Dad never loved me, so I'm going to show him, quote unquote, him by, being this famous or having this much monetary success. And that insecurity it's a fuel. Like it can burn real hot, but it's a dirty fuel. Dirty in the sense that there's collateral damage for using your insecurities as fuel. And then there's a quote unquote cleaner burning fuel, and that's, I really want to make a difference in the lives of this particular set of human beings, or I want to put something out there that elevates society, or I want to grow this so that I can not have to worry so much financially and be present for my kids. Right? There can be lots of examples of quote unquote clean burning fuels.
Yeah, I like that analogy quite a bit, actually, because I do think a lot about the karmic effects or consequences of all of our actions, and how, if you rewind again to that 5 or 10 year ago point in my journey, I wasn't paying attention to like the environmental impact of the business or home life, but now, thanks in large part to plant medicine journeys and awareness and, this new perspective I have, it all matters, but not in a way that adds any kind of worry. It just matters, it matters. And you kind of sense into the impact that we each have on each other in the ripple effects can be positive or negative. Yeah.
Yeah, that sense of oneness that is so common after psychedelic experiences. It keys our minds into impacts, both environmental. I mean, we have all these funny terms for people who were into psychedelics that date way back to the 60s, like hippies and tree huggers, and a lot of them very derogatory.
Tree huggers. We hugged a tree.
Yeah, it's because they help you care.
Yeah.
It's easy to stop caring in today's day and age. Thank you, dear listener, for listening. It means a lot to me. Psychedelic Therapy Frontiers is brought to you by Novamind, a mental health company that specializes in psychedelic medicine and research. You can learn more about Novamind's mission to increase access to legal, safe, and evidence-based psychedelic medicine at novamind.ca. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen or watch. Also, if you're feeling generous today, please leave us a glowing review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. If you'd like to reach out to us with questions, suggestions, scathing criticisms, etc., please email us at psychfrontiers@novamind.ca. Thanks again.